All right, the three-day summit of trade and investment between hundreds of African delegates and their Caribbean counterparts starts today in Bridgetown, Barbados. The summit, held under the umbrella of the African Export-Import Bank and the government of Barbados, looks to coordinate investment, financing, policies, and actions that will help Africa and Caribbean states improve their economies. Arise business anchor Boason Omofaye is covering this first ever summit in Bridgetown. He joins us now. Boason, how are you enjoying sunny Barbados? It's good to see you. As curtain was raised today on this very important summit, what are the key takeaways, Boason? You're looking good in the islands.
Yeah, it's good to be on the island. I think we can use some island life and style and the breeze of the ocean and the green environment all around, as it were. Get a little bit out of Lagos. But we need to replicate some of the things we see here. Let me digress a little bit. When I came down here, when we touched down yesterday, I was saying, this is what Calabar should look like.
Aha.
This is what the Akwa Ibom should look like. The entire hundreds of coastline that Nigeria has. This is how we can make tourism work for the entire Nigeria, but we're focusing more on fossil fuel and this crude oil. So the folks here, I'm going to check what the life expectancy here. If it's a whole lot more higher than Nigeria, then I'm likely going to get a permission to stay back here and elongate my time here on Earth. But first, let me just show you that we're talking big numbers here. Since the slave trade hundreds of years ago, this is the first time that Africa is doing more than talk about emancipation and the whole slave trade, but talking about trade and investment. What you call a handshake across the Atlantic, in which we're shaking hands in infrastructure, in investment, trade facilitation, agro-processing, industry, tourism, culture, and everything else in between. In fact, the Afrexim president talked about there should be more intermarriages between the Caribbean and Africa. And I think that goes straight to you, Rotus. If you're considering a wife, you may need to cross over here and let's trade places. You need to be here because... Yeah, because the Afrexim Bank president said we should be more intermarriages. Yes. And I'm married already. And you can see that here is a symbol. And I go everywhere with that. So I'm out of the loop. It's your turn. And you can bring that in as what's it called? Intermarriage here. Yeah, it's called an exchange. This is a rice exchange, by the way. It's an exchange of marriage between Africa. So the Afrexim president says, look, Benedicto Ramos says, look, but joke aside, we're talking about billions. Look at it. $4.5 billion in terms of fish imports by Africans. And the Caribbean, our Caribbean brothers and sisters, are sitting right in the middle of Atlantic Ocean. They contribute just less than 1% of that. So the majority of fish that we eat on the African continent are imported basically from Europe. So this needs to change. We need to have export incentives. So some good news are coming through, like Afrexim Bank setting up an office in the Caribbean. Perhaps that's going to be in Barbados, it's going to be somewhere else, and then open a special desk that will be focusing on Caribbean businesses, trade and investment in the headquarters in Cairo, Egypt. There's a whole lot that's been talked about. The Invest Barbados, which is the agency of Barbados, the Barbadian government that they're using, talk about the whole opening of investment, industrial promotion that needs to take place. And it's now being pursued between Africa and Caribbean. Back to you, Reuters.
Great stuff, Boason. Great stuff, and I'm gonna definitely take you up on that marital bliss in the Barbados. Why is the Africa-Caribbean trade relations important at this point in time, Boason?
Now, this is very important. Again, if you look at, this is just a start, this is a follow-up, not a real start, because the Afrexim Bank actually worked with the Caribbean countries in 2020, 2021 around the issue of vaccine for the coronavirus pandemic. And that was when this relationship really got started, the warming up of our brothers across the Atlantic more than we ever before. So after that, Afrexim Bank says, look, hold on a second, the whole globalization thing, policy and discussion is changing. Look at the war in the Ukraine. The whole globalization is unparking. What we now come to call economic nationalism is where we are today around the world. So why don't we across Africa trade a lot more with each other, invest more in each other's infrastructure? We have so many common affinities with each other. Our economies are almost the same. They've got tourism. We've got to open up our airline, for example, what you call the BASA, which is the airline service agreement. We need to sign that up. There's no single African airline that flies directly to Barbados or any part of the Caribbean. You've got to go through London, or you've got to go to Europe. If you go through New York, Rotus, you're likely going to have a 28-hour delay.
Wow.
If you want to move from Barbados to Dakar in Senegal. That was what the Prime Minister of Barbados said today. So that's totally unacceptable. Now you've got Ethiopian Airlines from Lagos brought us here to the island, beautiful island here, in just about 7-8 hours. That is money we're missing between Africa and the Caribbean.
Point well
so the
made.
whole world is changing. Everybody's looking for new partners. Now that has to change. We need to do business with our brothers and sisters over here in Caribbean. And of course, I think Arise News has got to put up an office here somewhere on the island. And you're going to be the first to be here because you need that marriage.
Indeed. Indeed, I'm with you on that, Boason. I'm getting that ticket. I'm getting that ticket. Boason, tell us about the role of the African Union in this summit and the wider handshake that you talked about across the Atlantic between Africa and the Caribbean states.
Another good news today, we got the inauguration of the Africa-Caribbean Business Council by the African Union, and representing the African Union here at this summit is the African Union Commissioner for Trade, Investment and Tourism, Albert Muchunga. He's always there wherever Afrexim go, a very good representative of the African Union. And he said two things. First, the inauguration of the Caribbean Business Council, which now promotes trade, investment, financing, whatever, across the Atlantic Ocean to the continent. Number two is that the African Union will be considering Afrexim Bank as a special agency in terms of trade facilitation and financing for the African Union, and that the African Union itself will consider setting up an office here in the Caribbean. That is a game changer that's going to happen most likely in 2023. Rotus.
Fantastic stuff. Rise Exchange anchor, Rise business analyst Boason Omofaye, boots on the ground in Barbados. Boason, excellent stuff, and we'll be keeping up with you as the summit continues.
I'm going to go shopping for you.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to you bringing some stuff back.
I'm going to go shopping for you. We talk about intermarriage thing.
Exactly.
I'll let you know.
Boason, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us.